Russian meddling seemed to take Silicon Valley's biggest companies by surprise in 2016.
The Russian effort to try to have these coordinated information operations on Facebook and also the internet more broadly was not something that we were expecting.
It turns out similar tactics have been used for decades.
U.S. officials have uncovered some 6 incidents of alleged Soviet forgeries around the world. Some of the demonstrations are encouraged, even supported by the Soviet Union. The State Department has copies of other documents allegedly forged by the KGB and fed to friendly publications.
So what has changed? It's the platforms. Those stories appeared in magazines and newspapers, but now social media is the primary target.
We use all means available to do damage to the enemy. The United States was the main adversary, the enemy. We hated you guys.
Jack Barsky is a former spy for the Soviet Union. He spent years living in the US undercover, spying on America on behalf of Russia. Back then, the secret organization Service A was the engine that ran the Soviets' disinformation operations.
Service A was primarily staffed by people who didn't know American society. There were people who never have been to the US.
That secret group was full of KGB agents whose job it was to make false American documents. And then stories based on those false documents spread.
A story would appear, for example, in a paper in India, and it would be picked up by a paper in Indonesia. And the same piece would then get picked up by someplace in Eastern Europe, and then Western Europe, and then it would become a quoted piece. Sources say the US invented AIDS. Sources say that the US is spreading disease. It would snowball is the bottom line. It would take, let's say, 4, 5, 6 months for a story to take hold, for the disease to show itself.
In those days, it was pretty hard to disseminate this kind of information. It took a lot of work, and you really had to focus on who do you want to do damage to with the resources that you had. Nowadays, it's so much easier. Social media makes it possible.
Today, there are countless internet trolls spreading false information. Millions of tweets sent in the build-up to the 2016 US presidential election were eventually discovered to have come from the Internet Research Agency. That's a Russian troll farm and propaganda operation linked to the Kremlin.
Essentially what we see is, especially from the Russians, is like a turning up the volume on existing divisions.
This post-election protest outside New York's Trump Tower was organized by Russians on Facebook.
By using social media, Russian operatives can do a lot more damage.
During the Cold War, if you were an intelligence operative and you went overseas to seed an information operation, if you got caught, you'd be arrested. Today, you can do it from your home, from your office in Russia. If you get caught, your account gets suspended and you open up a new account. So from a risk-reward perspective, the risk back in the 80s and 70s was very high. The risk is very low, but the reward is very high.
Low risk, high reward. And the culprits can be difficult to spot, hiding in plain sight where we have our guards down on social media.